I have before me two of HP's most popular 2-in-1 laptops. We have the Spectre X360 and the Envy X360. Now the Envy X360 has not changed in about 2 years. The design is exactly the same. Now I'm fine with this because the build quality of this laptop is absolutely excellent. Right now, my 5-year-old is using this laptop for his schooling. And let me tell you, this thing is not treated with the utmost of care because, children have a tendency to kind of not be as refined and let's just say a little bit more clumsy than most of us. This thing has gotten dropped and tossed so many times that I just can't even name it. Now, this is not the exact one he is using. This is the 2023 model. He's using the 2021 model, but the design is exactly the same. And let me tell you, from a longevity standpoint, it stands up to the tests and tumbles of your daily life. Now, looking at the assembly on this laptop, you can see it's put together very well with the way the bottom cover fits into the side panel. There's no catchy edges. It has a rounded edge on the front, a sharper edge on the back. One thing I wish they would change is bring this rounded edge to the back. It just make for a less sharp point on the back there. Now, getting this laptop open is not easy. That is one thing I really want to point out. In order to get it open, you actually have to remove the feet, take these screws out that are visible and remove screws below the feet in order to pull the bottom cover off and even consider an upgrade of this laptop. Now, there's not much upgradability in this laptop, just as a big note. That's one thing that kind of disappointed me, is this is a really nice, thin-ish laptop, but it's not an ultra thin laptop. And so I figured if they would have had the RAM not soldered to the motherboard, that would have helped out a lot for the upgrade path. And that would have provided an upgrade to say like 32 gigs of RAM. So you could really get more punch out of this laptop. I would say that's probably my biggest disappointment for this laptop while we're talking about it would be the performance 2 years later. When I reviewed this laptop 2 years ago, it scored about a 631 inside of Photoshop. And now, 2 years later, with the Ryzen 7 7730U, it only scores a 648. It only increased about 17 points in 2 years. This is not HP's fault. For some reason, Ryzen is definitely not pulling its punches in its lower TDP processors, the U series specifically. We're seeing great advancements in their H and their HX series processors, but they seem to be forgetting about their lower TDP lineup. If you're considering this laptop, I would definitely consider getting it with the i7-1355U. That's the processor that comes in the HP Spectre X360, and this got much better performance. It was reaching above the 700s with that Photoshop benchmark, and that to me justifies the price point of getting a 2023 laptop and having the performance to go along with it. Now, if I was gonna choose a ultra low TDP processor, I would choose the i7-1360P. Now, most of the time, this processor is in slightly more expensive laptops. Say, for instance, if you want to get an i7-1360P in something like an HP Spectre X360, it's going to cost you about $2,000. So just keep that in mind that when you're going up to that processor, it's going to get a little bit more expensive. Now, you can get online and look around and see if you can find that processor in something around the $1,000 price point. But you might not be able to get the build quality of the HP Envy X360, which is very good. Now, taking a look at the inside of the laptop, you can see we have a manual cutoff switch that actually slides across and covers the webcam. Very nice. We have a really color accurate display. I did not realize that the base model of the laptop screen would be so color accurate. We're seeing 100% sRGB out of this screen and at about 370 nits of screen brightness, as well as a really solid Delta E at 1.17. So you don't have to buy the expensive screen to still get great color accuracy. This is a fantastic pick for digital artists, graphic designers, photographers who want a color accurate screen, but they don't want to spend a huge amount on their laptop. Like I said, this is around the $1,000 price point, which isn't a cheap laptop, but it's definitely not one of the more expensive $2,000 laptops, which a couple years ago you would have had to spend in order to get a color accurate display. Now, the battery life is really good on this laptop. You're getting about 10 hours of battery life out of the 68 watt hour battery for streaming video playback, about 6 hours and 46 minutes for Photoshop, and then about 4 hours and 39 minutes for Premiere Pro. So this will keep you on the go throughout the day really well. That's one benefit I would say I see from the Ryzen processors, is they've continued to show good efficiency, though they haven't increased the performance over the past couple of years. according to the spec that I have in this laptop. The trackpad on this laptop is great. If you go ahead and you open up the HP Spectre, which looks like a much larger trackpad per ratio, it's actually the same size. So you get this really nice large trackpad on the 15-inch laptop. And if you're interested in getting, a smaller 16:10 aspect ratio, you can get it on the Spectre X360 14-inch model. So really great option for you if you're looking for a little bit more compact, on-the-go friendly version of HP's 2-in-1 laptops. Now, taking a look at the top of the keyboard deck, you would think that these are speaker grills. They are not. The speakers are actually along the bottom of the chassis, and all your audio is going to come out from these two speakers. The audio experience is actually really good, though, considering that the speakers are not on top of the keyboard deck. Here's a quick sample so you can listen to what they sound like. Now there is a webcam along the top of the bezel here, and here's a quick audio sample for you as well. This is the webcam on the HP Envy X360 and a little sample of the audio for you as well. Now the model that came into my office did not have a pen. Just keep that in mind. Make sure you check the description when you're purchasing to see if it does or does not come with a pen. Now as you go ahead and use the pen on the screen, you can see that it has a nice touch sensitivity. As you push light, it does a nice light stroke, and as you push heavier, you can get that thicker stroke. As you can see, it's very responsive. There's no lagginess when I touch the pen to the screen. It works very well. So great screen for touch sensitivity, but just again, keep in mind, check to see if it does or does not come with a pen. You might have to order one after your purchase. All right, now let's go ahead and get a tad deeper into the benchmarks. For those of you that do like simulated benchmarks, you can see those coming up on the screen now. I am not a big fan of simulated benchmarks because, as you can see here, this thing does not do very well in regards to simulated benchmarks. So it doesn't tell us a whole lot of the big picture of when you're actually using this laptop. Remember earlier I talked about the Photoshop benchmark. You can see it scores a 648 in Photoshop. And then moving down to video editing, this is where things get interesting. We actually can export 1080p footage fairly quickly at 1 minute and 48 seconds. So that's a good time, especially for a low TDP processor with no dedicated GPU. So great result there. The 4K export time, that's where you take a 9-minute 4K clip, place it in Premiere Pro, and then export it out at full quality YouTube settings. 6 minutes and 47 seconds is good. It's not really great though. I like to see laptops around the 3 to 4 minute mark to be really, really good. But keep in mind that those are laptops with dedicated GPUs. So that this laptop is a low TDP U series 7000 series processor from Ryzen. That is a good score. Now, what I like more about this is when you unplug the charger, you still get a 7-minute and 28-second export time. The export time does not dramatically increase. When it comes to Windows laptops, when you're plugged into the power supply, you get the most performance out of the laptop. When you unplug and you're only on battery power, you don't get to access all the performance from that processor. But this is showing me that you're still getting good performance even while on battery power. Now, playback was decent. 4K playback, we saw 4,183 drop frames out of the 16,177 in the project. That's a little higher than I would prefer. But if you drop it down to half quality in your timeline in Premiere Pro, you can easily get that to 20 dropped frames. And if you're using 1080p, you'll see 0 drop frames at full quality. So this is going to make a great 1080p editing laptop, Photoshop laptop, and even some light 4K video editing. If you're going to be doing that from time to time, it would work really well. It just isn't going to be very, very fast. Punch for punch, you can't beat this laptop in regards to build quality, the durability of this laptop. Like I was saying earlier in the video, my children have used this laptop for a couple of years now, and it has stood the test of time. I like the design. I like the pen touch sensitivity. The screen for the price point is fantastic. And you have a nice large trackpad, so as a creator, you don't have to bring that mouse along with you in order to have a good experience with the mouse. Links in the description if you're ready to make a purchase, and click or tap the screen here for more videos to help you with your purchasing decision. I'll see you here in the next one.